Welcome back to the channel and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most astonishing, mind-bending, and conversation-sparking stories in the entire world of rare coins, a story that blends curiosity, mystery, numismatic passion, and the electrifying excitement of discovering tremendous value where almost no one expects it. And today we're taking you deep into the legendary case of the so-called 1969 1-cent piece that has been rumored, discussed, and mythologized for reaching an unimaginable valuation of more than $392 million, a figure so massive and surreal that it pushes the boundaries of what people believe possible for an object originally worth only a single cent, yet through a combination of spectacular errors, bizarre minting anomalies, and improbable circumstances, this humble penny has become a symbol of how a tiny piece of copper can transform into a nearly priceless artifact, and in this script we are going to unravel every element, from the subtle, microscopic minting mistakes to the wildly dramatic possibilities that enthusiasts, collectors, and experts use to explain why such a coin could command such an astonishing valuation. And as we guide you through this narrative, imagine yourself holding that very coin, feeling the weight of its metal, knowing that its extraordinary quirks and imperfections have elevated it into a category so rare that it transcends normal numismatic expectations and enters the realm of once-in-a-civilization discoveries, all while we explore how its errors, anomalies, and potential backstory contribute to a price tag that rivals the budgets of entire corporations. And it begins with one of the most commonly discussed aspects of the 1969 1-cent coin, the notion that the mint mark itself, a tiny struck letter that indicates the Denver Mint, might be the center of a cascade of mistakes created during a time when the minting process was transitioning, evolving, and occasionally slipping into procedures that allowed layered errors to go unnoticed. And in this imagined scenario, the 1969 penny might feature a mint mark that was punched manually rather than mechanically, creating deviations where the D appears doubled, tripled, skewed, off-center, or placed at an angle inconsistent with standard minting. And collectors know that when a mint mark is even a fraction of a millimeter out of place, interest skyrockets, because such deviations provide insight into how an employee, a machine, or an unexpected failure contributed to the creation of a one-of-a-kind piece. But the potential errors of a coin like this do not stop at the mint mark, they extend into the complex world of doubling, where the image on the coin appears doubled due to mechanical malfunction, die deterioration, die shifting, or hub damage. And the 1969 series is already historically associated with one of the most famous double die obverse errors, though that was found on Philadelphia minted coins. And imagining that a 1969 penny bears a dramatic, full-spread double die with clear doubling on Liberty, in God we trust, and the date itself turns the coin into something extraordinary because dramatic doubling is among the most sought-after errors in the entire coin collecting universe. And when you combine that with a mint mark that shouldn't logically appear on that kind of doubled die, collectors interpret such an object as a minting impossibility, which is precisely the kind of anomaly that elevates a coin from rare to legendary. But the fascination continues because enthusiasts also consider the possibility that the hypothetical 1969 penny might have been struck on the wrong planchet, using a metal blank meant for a foreign coin or for a denomination outside the 1-cent standard, meaning the weight, thickness, and composition would be off specifications. And errors like wrong planchet strikes are among the most dramatic and exciting mistakes any mint can produce because they reflect a failure in the minting chain where blanks intended for completely different coins enter the hopper for the wrong press. And imagine a 1-cent piece struck on a 90% silver blank or a bronze planchet of different tolerance, or perhaps even an aluminum experimental blank that was never supposed to leave the mint. And suddenly the coin becomes a relic of historical experimentation, a piece that collectors treat not just as currency but as an artifact of minting history. And beyond composition errors, there are also broad strike errors, off-center strikes, and drop letter impressions that further fuel the idea that the coin is something far more dramatic than a standard Lincoln cent. And suppose that this 1969 coin displayed an extreme off-center strike of 20 to 40% while still maintaining a visible date and mint mark, conditions which dramatically increase numismatic value because they represent errors that are rare, dramatic, visually striking, and highly desirable to collectors. And when you blend this with die cracks, cuds, clash marks, lamination errors, or even multiple strikes where the coin was struck twice or 3 times in slightly different rotations, you begin layering the kinds of mistakes that would make a single specimen not just valuable but historically unparalleled. And then add the idea that the coin's provenance may include an extraordinary backstory, perhaps emerging from a sealed bag discovered decades after minting, untouched, its unusual characteristics preserved in pristine condition, and because condition plays a significant role in valuation, especially in coins that supposedly contain multiple, major minting errors. The idea that this penny survived in mint state condition elevates it even further, with collectors imagining that the coin escaped circulation due to its odd appearance, setting it on a path where it lay hidden until its discovery sent shockwaves through the collector world. And another contribution to the massive valuation could be the notion that the coin is unique, meaning that despite extensive searching among millions of 1969 D cents, no other specimen with the same combination of errors, anomalies, planchet deviations, and striking oddities has ever been found. And uniqueness is one of the most powerful forces in the numismatic market because when only one example exists, the collector who owns it holds something that cannot be replaced, reproduced, or matched. And the psychological impact of knowing that you are holding the only surviving example of a minting impossibility pushes bidding wars to heights that would normally seem unthinkable for a copper coin. And when collectors and investors engage in high-stakes bidding, rarity becomes only one piece of the puzzle: the historical significance of the coin, its role as a minting mystery, and its potential position as a conversation item that crosses into mainstream fascination. Add layers of intangible value that combine to build astronomical price tags, but beyond the analytics of error classification, there's also the mythology surrounding such a coin, as people speculate that the coin may have been created during a period when minting equipment was undergoing transition, alignment errors were more common, quality control teams were overwhelmed, or manufacturing overflow occurred, allowing abnormal pieces to escape into circulation, and over time, whispers about the existence of such a coin transform into legend, attracting the attention of collectors who believe that finding impossible artifacts connects them directly with the history and mystery of America's minting process. And as speculation increases, so does perceived value, which can spiral into multi-hundred-million-dollar figures as investors chase ownership of the most spectacular coin anomaly imaginable. And then there's the psychological dimension of valuation, because when a coin is so famous that its name circulates among collectors, investors, historians, and even people outside the numismatic community, its value takes on a cultural dimension, and cultural value often exceeds material value, which in this hypothetical narrative contributes to the staggering valuation of $392 million, a number that symbolizes not only the coin's physical errors but the public fascination and mythos surrounding it. And if we think about the motivations of the buyer willing to pay such an amount, it's more than owning a rare coin. It's owning a piece of American folklore, a conversation piece that becomes a personal museum, a symbol of perfection through imperfection, and a testament to how mistakes sometimes create the most valuable treasures. And imagine collectors analyzing the coin under microscopes, discussing the angle of each doubled device, the flow lines across the planchet, the presence of die polishing marks, microscopic abrasions that reveal the story of how the die may have been used before or after striking this very coin. And enthusiasts debate which errors came first, whether the planchet anomaly triggered later striking errors, whether the mint mark was added before or after hub doubling occurred, and whether the combination of errors provides clues about the sequence of minting events. And the deeper the analysis goes, the more the narrative expands, until the coin becomes a historical puzzle piece that encourages endless curiosity. And part of what makes the value soar is the idea that such a coin forces experts to reconsider what is possible in coin production, meaning that it challenges existing assumptions about the minting process, making it not just a collectible but a conversation starter in academic and professional minting circles. Next, 1981 cent coin that somehow, through a combination of rare errors, mysterious minting anomalies, and almost impossible circumstances, has been valued at an astounding $56 million. And as unbelievable as that sounds, when you start to unpack the layers of mistakes, mint mishaps, production oddities, unexpected metal shifts, transitional planchet surprises, doubled elements, misaligned strikes, and secretive mint operations from that era, you begin to understand how such a tiny, copper-coated coin could transform into one of the most sought-after and talked-about modern rarities in American numismatic history. And today we are going to unravel every possibility, every theory, every error type, every behind-the-scenes mishap, every accidental oversight, and every miraculous survival that could explain why a single penny from 1980 has been rumored to fetch more than most luxury homes, sports cars, and rare art pieces, as we peel back the layers of the minting process. From that year, starting with the historical background of the U.S. Mint entering a new decade of technological transition, increased production demands, and pressure to meet circulation needs that pushed equipment to extremes, which in turn created a perfect storm for strange anomalies, because 1980 was a year when millions of coins were being produced at rapid pace, dies were being swapped quickly, Machines were running near capacity, and any small error could easily slip through unnoticed, and that environment is exactly where the earliest rumors about the $56,001,980 penny began, rumors that suggest that a very limited number of coins were struck on the wrong planchet material, leading to a coin with a composition that differs dramatically from a normal 1980 cent, and if such a coin exists, even slight deviations in weight or metallurgical structure could push its value into extreme territory because wrong planchet errors are already rare, but when tied to a year of high-speed mass production when record-keeping was inconsistent and mint batches were mixed, the possibility of one extraordinary mistake becomes even more plausible, and when collectors began whispering about a 1980 cent struck on a leftover bronze planchet from pre-1982 alloy reserves or even a foreign planchet from coins the mint struck for other countries, those rumors alone caused massive excitement, because any variation in weight, sound, density, or conductivity instantly transforms an ordinary cent into a one-of-a-kind treasure, and that's just the beginning because the theory surrounding wrong planchets is only one layer of the mystery, with many experts pointing to the possibility of a double die error so profound that it dramatically alters the visual appearance of the coin, especially around the date, the lettering, or even Lincoln's profile, and double die errors, particularly ones with strong separation or clear doubling, can skyrocket in value because they represent a failure in the hubbing process where the die receives more than one misaligned impression. And if the 1980 cent in question shows extreme doubling on the date, specifically the 1, 9, 8, or 0, then collectors would immediately recognize it as a once-in-a-lifetime rarity. But what makes this story even more intriguing is the speculation that the coin may show multiple errors combined in a single piece, something that is exceedingly rare, such as a double strike combined with a broad strike or an off-center strike paired with a rotated die, or even a coin that began striking on one die but ended under another due to a mechanical jam, creating a hybrid error that simply shouldn't exist. And when you consider that coins with two or more major errors are exponentially more valuable than coins with just one, the possibility of a multi-error 1980 cent instantly becomes a reason why some people believe this one is worth $56 million, but we can go even deeper. Because some collectors insist the coin may involve a transitional die issue where a die created for proof coins accidentally struck business strike planchets or vice versa, which can result in sharper details, unexpected finishes, or mismatched characteristics that break every rule of normal mint production. And when a coin shows proof-like fields on one side and standard finish on the other, or when rim characteristics match proof dies even though the coin is not a proof, that inconsistency generates massive value because it means the mint unintentionally produced a hybrid coin with no legitimate category. And beyond transitional and proof-like anomalies, there are theories about overpolished dies, die cracks, die chips forming massive cuds, and even catastrophic die breaks that leave dramatic raised metal formations on the coin, some appearing like bold ridges, shattered metal fissures, or unusual shapes across Lincoln's portrait or the Lincoln Memorial. And error collectors thrive on these dramatic visual mistakes because they show the exact moment a mint die was failing under pressure, capturing a physical, frozen explosion of metal displacement, which in itself can make a coin highly desirable. But when such an error appears on a coin rumored to already have rare composition or strike issues, that combination pushes its value into previously unimaginable territory. And we also need to consider the possibility that the $56,001,980 cent could be connected to a historically significant mint experiment, because around that era, the United States Mint was continuously testing new metal compositions, alternative alloy mixes, strike pressure calibrations, and durability experiments, some of which involved producing a handful of test coins that were never supposed to reach circulation. And if even one of those experimental planchets accidentally entered a normal production line, the result would be an ultra-rare test coin that carries both scientific and numismatic importance, and collectors pay enormous prices for experimental pieces, especially when they represent a transition in U.S. coinage history. And given that 1980 was only 2 years before the major shift from bronze to copper-plated zinc for 1-cent coins, it's entirely believable that test runs for the new alloy were being performed, meaning a 1980 cent struck on zinc-based experimental planchets could theoretically exist. And if that single surviving piece displays characteristics linking it to the earliest zinc prototypes, then its value skyrockets because it becomes a historical artifact marking the beginning of a monumental shift in U.S. coinage. But the mystery deepens further with long-discussed rumors about a missing batch of coins from 1980 that were struck during a machine calibration phase, when dies weren't fully secured or aligned, producing bizarre anomalies like dramatic off-center strikes, partially missing designs, incomplete impressions, where Lincoln's face appears ghost-like or partially vanished, and even coins where the reverse design did not fully strike, leaving only faint outlines of the Lincoln Memorial pillars. And when such calibration pieces survive outside the mint, they instantly become legendary because they provide a rare glimpse into the technical imperfections of coin manufacturing. And the most extraordinary of these errors, especially those that display visually stunning deformities, can reach prices in the millions. So if the $56 million penny is a combination of a calibration strike, wrong planchet, double die, and die crack monstrosity all in one coin, then the valuation rumors become far more reasonable. But we cannot ignore the possibility that part of the coin's extreme value comes not only from the physical errors themselves but from its provenance, that is, the story of who discovered it, how it was found, where it was preserved, and the chain of ownership that may have passed through famous collectors, private estates, or even secretive auctions that were never publicly recorded. And provenance can amplify the value of a rare coin because historical context increases desirability. And if the coin was discovered in an unusual place, such as locked inside an old mint employee's personal belongings, a mislabeled bag from Denver or Philadelphia, or recovered from a forgotten hoard that had not seen daylight in decades, that origin story alone can enhance its mystique. And when you combine mystery with documented rarity, the coin's worth climbs dramatically. And as collectors continue to debate the exact error or combination of errors that could justify a $56 million price tag, theories continue to expand, ranging from partial collar strikes that leave strange edges to mint mark anomalies caused by hand-punching methods used before 1990, meaning the mint mark on the coin could be misaligned, tilted, doubled, or even struck using the wrong punch intended for another mint, creating yet another layer of impossible uniqueness. And then there's the possibility of a mule error, one of the rarest types of mint mistakes, where the obverse of one coin is paired with the reverse of a completely different denomination. And while no confirmed mule errors are known for the 1980 cent, the high-speed production environment of that year combined with the mint's complex workload makes the idea not completely impossible. And even a partial mule or mismatched die pairing would elevate the coin into near mythical status. And as we continue to imagine every conceivable scenario. Next, 1985 1-cent coin but quickly transforms into a mystery packed with rare errors, minting anomalies, unexpected production mishaps, and swirling theories that suggest this tiny copper-coated coin could be worth an extraordinary $45 million, an amount so mind-bending that it makes collectors, beginners, and even people who've never cared about coins suddenly stop and wonder how a penny from 1985 could command the kind of price you'd expect for a mansion, a luxury yacht, or a museum-worthy piece of art. And today we are going to unravel this entire mystery in a single deep, flowing narrative, exploring every possibility, error, mistake, and legendary mint mishap that could contribute to a value so immense, beginning with the historical moment in which the 1985 cent was born. A period when the United States Mint was still adjusting to the material transition that began 3 years earlier, shifting from the classic bronze alloy to the new copper-plated zinc planchets. A change that was supposed to streamline production, reduce cost, and modernize the cent, but the early and mid-1980s were notorious for inconsistencies in the plating process, die preparation issues, machine pressure fluctuations, and experimental adjustments that sometimes caused unexpected results. And when millions upon millions of cents were being struck at lightning speed, even a tiny deviation in timing, alignment, metal thickness, or die condition could lead to errors, some of which became famous and others that slipped quietly into circulation waiting decades to be discovered. So it's within this chaotic and transitional environment that the legend of a $45,001,985 penny begins, fueled by theories that this particular coin did not simply contain one error but possibly an unbelievable combination of wrong planchet composition, major strike anomalies, die misalignments, doubled elements, and even experimental mint conditions that created a unique marvel unlike any other 1985 cent ever produced. And the first major theory that collectors consider when tracing the roots of its enormous value is the possibility that it was struck on a wrong planchet, because although 1985 cents were officially supposed to be made of copper-plated zinc, leftover bronze planchets from the earlier era or foreign coin planchets used by the U.S. Mint for international orders could have remained in bins or machinery, and if one such planchet accidentally entered the production stream, the result would be a coin with a noticeably different weight, density, color tone, strike sharpness, or metallic sound. And wrong planchet errors are among the most valuable mistakes in numismatics, especially when they occur in a time period where millions expect uniformity. So if the $45 million penny is in fact a leftover solid bronze planchet coin or one struck on an exotic foreign planchet, then its rarity would already be immense because it would represent not only a physical anomaly but also a glimpse into the mint's chaotic storage and sorting systems during the early zinc transition years, and yet wrong planchet errors alone cannot explain such a staggering price, which is why many collectors believe this coin exhibits astonishing double die features, perhaps on the date where the 1, 9, 8, and 5 show strong directional separation, or on the words Liberty or In God We Trust, or even on Lincoln's profile where doubling can dramatically alter the appearance, and double die errors occur when the die receives more than one misaligned impression during hubbing, and strong double dies are some of the most valuable errors in existence because they represent a direct flaw at the master creation level, meaning every coin struck from that die carries the same dramatic mistake, but if only one coin survived or only one was struck before the die was corrected, the rarity becomes immeasurable, and that is exactly what fuels the speculation that the $45,001,985 cent could be a unique double die anomaly unlike anything else in the Lincoln cent series, but collectors also theorize the coin may show multiple strike errors such as being struck off-center by a significant percentage while still retaining a full date, which dramatically increases value. Or perhaps it is a double strike error where the coin was struck once, failed to eject properly, and was struck again at a slightly rotated angle, creating a visually stunning and extremely desirable multi-strike pattern that error collectors adore. And when a coin features overlapping impressions, ghostly outlines, rotated secondary images, or shifted design elements, its rarity increases exponentially, but the story becomes even more incredible when considering the possibility of a triple error, meaning the coin might show a wrong planchet composition, a double die anomaly, and a dramatic off-center or double strike all in one. Something so rare that it nearly defies belief, because multi-error coins of that magnitude rarely survive, and when they do, they often become legendary pieces of numismatic history. And then there is the theory involving die deterioration and plating issues, because early zinc cents from the mid-1980s suffered from dramatic die wear that sometimes caused extreme die cracks, raised cuds, and interior breaking, producing coins with massive raised lumps of metal, shattered design sections, thick die fractures running across Lincoln's head or the reverse building, and even partially missing details, and plating bubbles caused by zinc expansion or bonding flaws sometimes produced blistered surfaces that can resemble unusual textures or patterns. And although plating bubbles alone are common and not valuable, when a plating issue occurs in combination with a major strike error or wrong planchet, it becomes part of a much larger anomaly that enhances value. And since zinc planchets were particularly unpredictable in early production years, the chance that the $45 million penny contains a rare, dramatic plating flaw combined with a strike or die error is not unrealistic, especially considering how rushed production was in 1985, but collectors have also suggested that the coin may have originated from an experimental mint process, because the mint was testing improved bonding techniques, pressure calibrations, and strike depth adjustments during that decade, and sometimes experimental pieces were accidentally fed into regular production bins, creating coins with unusual luster, incorrect layering, incomplete copper coating, or unique metallurgical characteristics that do not reflect normal production standards. And if this particular 1985 cent exhibits such experimental traits along with a major visible error, the value would increase significantly. But another theory points to the possibility that the coin could be a mule, an error in which the obverse of one denomination is paired with the reverse of another. And although mule errors are some of the rarest mint mistakes ever and almost unheard of in small coins like cents, the complexity and high-speed nature of the minting process means that anything is possible, and if a mule involving a cent die and a foreign coin reverse or some unexpected mismatched die combination was produced, even if only for a single test strike, the resulting coin would be priceless because mule errors represent minting impossibilities that collectors value above almost all other mistakes. But beyond strike and die errors, some collectors theorize that provenance plays a major role in the $45 million valuation, because sometimes it's not just the errors themselves but the story behind the coin that elevates its status. And if this coin was discovered in a mint employee's personal collection, a sealed mint bag locked away for decades, or part of a mysterious hoard of experimental strikes, the history alone would add to the mystique and push its desirability even further. And provenance has historically escalated coin values dramatically when the story behind the piece aligns with historical events, secrecy, rarity, or controversy, and a coin believed to have escaped the mint under unusual circumstances often becomes a high-profile collectible, adding intangible value on top of its physical anomalies. But even that is not the end of the possibilities, because die rotation Errors may also be part of the coin's uniqueness, with some suggesting that the obverse and reverse are misaligned by degrees far beyond the tolerance allowed by the mint, creating a dramatic rotation where Lincoln's portrait appears upright while the reverse building appears diagonally or sideways, an error that collectors find highly desirable and which can fetch significant premiums, especially when the rotation is extreme, and when paired with any other major error, can push value into astonishing ranges, and some theories go even further, suggesting the coin may reveal a partial collar strike, leaving one side of the coin with a normal edge while the other side exhibits a wide, expanded flange of metal due to incomplete collar engagement during striking, creating a unique shape that instantly distinguishes the piece from any ordinary cent. While other possibilities include broad strike errors where the collar fails entirely, causing the coin to expand outward, resulting in a larger than normal diameter, or clipped planchet errors where a portion of the coin is missing due to misfeeding of metal strips during blanking, but the most extreme theories propose a combination of wrong planchet, double strike, dramatic rotation. Next. 1983 1-cent coin, a tiny copper-plated zinc piece that millions of people handled without a second thought, yet somehow one example of this coin has become the center of massive attention, mystery, and speculation because of a rumored value of $33 million, a number so gigantic, so shocking, and so outside the normal expectations of what a coin from the 1980s should ever be worth that it forces collectors, hobbyists, treasure hunters, and everyday people to suddenly rethink everything they thought they knew about pennies, minting mistakes, rarity, and the sheer power that errors can have when they combine in ways so rare and unpredictable that they create a once-in-a-generation phenomenon. And today we're going to embark on a long, continuous deep dive exploration into every plausible reason, error, anomaly, mishap, minting freak accident, production oversight, and extraordinary possibility that could make a 1983 1-cent coin skyrocket to an unimaginable $33 million, because 1983 was no ordinary year for US 1-cent coins. In fact, it was a year full of transition chaos, experimental adjustments, metal changes, and unprecedented mint behavior as the United States Mint had just switched from the traditional bronze alloy to the new copper-plated zinc composition only a year earlier in 1982, and that change resulted in multiple varieties, unexpected problems, quality issues, die inconsistencies, plating failures, and increased chances for dramatic mint errors to slip through unnoticed, making 1983 one of the most important error-producing years in modern cent history. And because the mint was still adapting to the new production system, they faced challenges involving die pressure calibrations, plating uniformity, planchet feeding mechanisms, and new quality control routines that were not yet fully stable. And this environment created the perfect storm for rare and valuable errors, leading many collectors to believe that the mysterious $33,001,983 penny might be the result of a once-in-a-lifetime combination of extraordinary mistakes, beginning with one of the most famous and widely discussed 1983 errors, the possibility of a rare copper planchet coin, because although 1983 cents were officially struck on copper-plated zinc, a small handful of 1983 pennies struck on leftover bronze planchets from previous years have surfaced, and those coins already sell for tens of thousands of dollars due to their rarity. But the theory surrounding the $33 million cent suggests something far more extreme, perhaps a unique bronze planchet error that exhibits additional anomalies beyond composition, such as a wrong thickness, a mismatched weight, a foreign alloy contaminant, or a metallurgical signature linking it to an experimental batch of planchets that were never meant to enter circulation. And if this particular coin was struck on a bronze planchet with a highly unusual alloy mixture or one that originated from a foreign coin batch being processed by the mint, its value would immediately spike into astronomical territory. But what makes this coin even more fascinating are the theories surrounding double die errors, because a strong, dramatic double die on a 1983 cent would be an instant sensation, especially if the doubling occurs on the date, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust," and some collectors believe the $33 million coin may be the result of an extreme double die caused by a catastrophic hubbing misalignment that produced massive, widely separated doubling not only on the lettering but potentially across Lincoln's portrait, creating a visually stunning and unmistakable error that would place it among the most important double dies in U.S. minting history. And strong double dies have a long track record of selling for unbelievable prices, such as the famous 1955 double die cent or the 1969 double die coins that already change hands for huge amounts. So if a 1983 cent exists with doubling that surpasses known examples, its worth would be incalculable, But there's also speculation that this legendary penny may involve a multi-strike error, such as a dramatic double strike or even a triple strike where the coin was struck, failed to eject correctly, and then received another strike at a rotated angle, producing overlapping portraits, ghost-like Lincoln outlines, shifted text, and chaotic design. Impressions that error collectors dream about, and when multi-strike errors occur on wrong planchet coins or double die coins, their rarity doesn't just add up, it multiplies exponentially, pushing value far beyond expectations. And then there are theories surrounding extreme off-center strikes, where the coin may have been struck so far off-center that a massive portion of the blank planchet is visible while still retaining the full date, a combination that is extremely desirable because collectors value off-center coins with complete dates far more than those missing the year, and if the $33 million coin is an off-center strike combined with a wrong planchet, double die, or multi-strike anomaly, it would likely be one of the rarest error coins ever created. But the possibilities don't stop there because 1983 was also notorious for die deterioration and die cracks, leading to dramatic cuts, major raised metal formations, shattered die effects, and huge break lines across the surface of the coin. And while die cracks and cuts alone are not usually worth millions, when combined with other major minting flaws, they become part of a much larger anomaly that enhances the coin's uniqueness, and collectors love coins that tell a story of mint machinery failing under enormous pressure, leaving behind a physical record of a die that was literally breaking apart while striking coins. And if this $33 million penny displays an extraordinary die crack pattern, such as a massive crack running through Lincoln's face or a giant cut overtaking part of the reverse building, it would add yet another layer of breathtaking rarity. And then comes one of the most mysterious theories of all, the possibility that the coin came from an experimental strike batch, because during the early zinc years the mint was constantly testing strike pressure, plating thickness, bonding methods, and alloy mixtures, and experimental coins were sometimes created for internal evaluation, never intended for circulation, but records from that era are incomplete or inconsistent, meaning some of these test strikes could have accidentally mixed with circulating coins. And if the $33,001,983 cent is one of these rare experimental pieces, possessing metal composition anomalies, unique strike characteristics, or a plating method that does not match standard production, its value would dwarf even the rarest known modern error coins. And some collectors have even speculated that this coin might be a mule error, one of the rarest and most valuable types of mint mistakes in the world, where the obverse die of one denomination is paired with the reverse die of another. And while no confirmed mule errors involving 1983 cents have surfaced, the chaotic transitional period at the mint makes the possibility intriguing. And if such a mule exists, a cent with a reverse not belonging to the Lincoln Memorial design, it would be priceless. Perhaps even worthy of the $33 million claim. But there are also theories involving extreme die rotation errors, where the obverse and reverse are rotated far beyond normal tolerances, creating a coin where Lincoln's portrait is upright but the reverse building is tilted or even sideways, and collectors pay serious premiums for dramatic rotations, especially when paired with other errors. And then there is the idea of a broad strike or partial collar strike, where the retaining collar malfunctioned, causing the coin to expand outward or develop an irregular edge. And in some rare cases a coin may have been struck without a collar, producing a wider, oddly shaped cent that instantly draws attention and value. And if such a shape occurred on a rare planchet or with doubled elements, it would again push value into stratospheric levels. And of course one cannot overlook clip planchet errors, where part of the planchet is missing due to misfed metal strips during blanking. And although clipped planchets alone are not astronomically valuable, they become priceless when combined with wrong metal or double die errors. And then there's the possibility of overpolished dies where details disappear, creating a strange ghost-like appearance, or underpolished dies where extra unwanted details appear, each capable of generating additional rarity. And we must also consider that the coin's value might be tied to provenance, meaning the story behind how it was discovered, preserved, or transferred through ownership, because sometimes a coin becomes legendary not only for its physical traits but also for its history. And if this 1983 cent was discovered in a long-forgotten mint bag, found in the belongings of a former mint worker, or auctioned quietly through private channels with documentation of its uniqueness, that backstory could inflate its value dramatically. And collectors are known to pay enormous premiums for coins with historical or mysterious origins. And when all these theories, possibilities, and potential combinations are laid out, wrong planchet, double die, multi-strike error, dramatic off-center impression, massive die crack. Next. 2001 1-cent coin. Yes, a coin most people would overlook without a second thought, has been rumored to reach an astonishing value of up to $18 million when found with a combination of rare errors, dramatic minting mistakes, and strange anomalies that make it one of the most intriguing coins ever to roll off the presses of the United States Mint. And in this long deep dive we are going to explore every angle, every theory, and every possibility of how a coin minted in the 21st century, a coin many of us have touched, spent, dropped, or ignored, could possibly be worth more than houses, cars, college educations, and entire retirement plans, because the moment you understand how errors turn ordinary coins into priceless artifacts, the story of the 2001 penny becomes even more fascinating as we retrace its journey from its creation at the mint to the hands of collectors who spend years searching for the rarest varieties, trying to identify double dies, off-center strikes, die clashes, broad strikes, wrong planchet errors, transitional metals, misaligned dies, and hundreds of other anomalies that occur when the minting process experiences even the slightest hiccup. And the 2001 penny stands out because it sits right at the intersection of old minting technology and the newer, more modern machinery that was being improved and updated around that time, meaning that a single-minute flaw in the minting setup could lead to incredibly dramatic results, and that is one reason so many experts believe that 2001 may have produced a handful of freak errors so rare that their value skyrocketed into the stratosphere. And to understand why, we first have to look at how the 2001 penny was made, what was happening at the mint, how the machines were being operated, and why certain dies were more prone to producing flawed strikes that were never supposed to escape quality control. Yet somehow, as has happened so many times throughout minting history, a handful of these flawed coins slipped through undetected, quietly entering circulation where they would go unnoticed for years until sharp-eyed collectors, roll hunters, and researchers began uncovering strange anomalies that didn't match typical penny production, anomalies that raised eyebrows and sparked debates, the kind of debates that spread like wildfire through numismatic communities as people began comparing coins, discussing possibilities, and asking whether a mysterious combination of errors might exist on a single 2001 penny that could justify the eye-watering value of $18 million. And when you examine error coins, you quickly realize that the value doesn't come from just one mistake alone. Anyone can find a minor misalignment or small smear in metal flow lines, but the truly legendary coins are the ones that show multiple overlapping mistakes, the kind of once-in-a-generation combination that creates a one-of-a-kind piece, and many believe the 2001 penny that has been rumored to reach such a staggering value must possess several of these overlapping errors. And what might those be? Well, let's imagine how a coin can go wrong in the first place. The wrong planchet could be fed into the press, meaning instead of striking a copper-plated zinc planchet, the press might have mistakenly struck a planchet intended for a dime or even a foreign coin, and in rare cases, leftover planchets from previous years can linger in the machinery, leading to transitional errors. And in a year like 2001, when zinc cores were standard, if a leftover copper planchet from pre-1983 somehow made its way into the press, that alone would create an unbelievable rarity, because a 2001 penny struck in solid copper would already break expectations. But now imagine that coin also receiving a double die obverse because the die hubbing process was being refined at that time, meaning certain dies were susceptible to doubling, especially around the date, the motto, Liberty, or even Lincoln's profile, producing dramatic doubling visible to the naked eye. And if that same coin was struck slightly off-center, or if the die was rotated incorrectly, or if the pressure was misaligned just enough to produce a broad strike where the rim expands outward in an abnormal shape, then you suddenly have a coin that isn't just rare but simply unique, and uniqueness is what drives multi-million-dollar valuations, especially when the coin shows a chain reaction of mistakes that create an unmistakable identity, a fingerprint in metal that makes it stand apart from every other example minted that year. And collectors know that the year 2001 produced tens of billions of pennies, but only one or two may have escaped with errors so extreme that they became the stuff of legend. And when you consider all the intricacies of the minting process, the mechanical pressures involved, the moving parts that require precision, you begin to see how even the smallest misalignment of a die or a planchet could create ripple effects cascading into bizarre results like multiple strikes where the coin lands improperly on the die after the first strike and then rotates or shifts, receiving a second or third impression at a crooked angle, giving rise to overlapping silhouettes of Lincoln's profile, ghostly shadows of letters, or distorted expansions of the date. And these multi-strike coins are already highly sought after, but if the metal composition were wrong, or if the planchet were thinner or thicker than expected, or if the blank was clipped or cut irregularly before being fed into the press, the value increases exponentially. And the 2001 penny has had reported examples of clipped planchets, broad strikes, Die cracks that run dramatically across the coin like lightning bolts, cuts that form when a piece of the die breaks off and leaves a raised blob of metal, die chips filling the letters of liberty or the date, and when these features combine on a single coin. Collectors perk up, but when the combination becomes so rare that only one known example exists, that's when valuations explode into the millions, because the marketplace for unique numismatic treasures is driven by wealthy collectors who want to own something no one else in the world has, and the legend of the 2001 penny likely stems from one such specimen, a penny that may have had a rond-planchet composition, a dramatic double die, a striking misalignment, a broad strike with expanded rims, a deep die crack, and potentially even evidence of a die clash where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchet between them, imprinting subtle outlines of the memorial or Lincoln's face onto the opposite side, creating eerie ghost images that collectors adore because they serve as a physical record of a minting accident frozen in metal. And these are the kinds of accidents that spark stories, inspire collectors to search through pocket change, motivate roll hunters to spend hours examining coins under magnification, and encourage researchers to document every anomaly. And as more people began talking about the possibilities, the rumors grew, the speculation expanded, and the idea that an extraordinary 2001 penny could be worth $18 million gained momentum, because in the world of rare coins, value isn't just about how old a coin is but how unique it is, how dramatic the errors are, how perfect the condition might be despite the mistakes, how well preserved the anomalies remain, and whether the coin has a story compelling enough to draw global attention. And the 2001 penny fits perfectly into this formula, because it represents the modern era yet offers the allure of ancient-style mistakes, and many collectors believe that the most valuable error coins are not those from the 19th century but those from modern times, because modern minting has stricter quality control, making dramatic mistakes far rarer and therefore potentially far more valuable. And when the 2001 penny entered conversations as a potential multi-million-dollar piece, the numismatic community lit up with endless theories about how such a coin could exist, whether it was retrieved from a mint employee's personal stash, whether it slipped into a mint bag unnoticed, whether it was found in circulation, and whether the person who discovered it even realized what they had, because history has shown that some of the rarest coins ever discovered were found by accident in pocket change, in old jars, in estate boxes, or in circulation where no one expected wealth to be hiding. And knowing this, it becomes entirely believable that a miraculous 2001 penny could be out there. And when you combine the extreme rarity of multi-era coins with the powerful stories behind them, plus the ever-increasing demand from wealthy buyers who want iconic pieces of minting history, the valuation of $18 million becomes not just a rumor but a possibility. Especially if the coin incorporates a series of errors previously unseen together on a single modern penny, because that level of anomaly elevates a coin from interesting to legendary, sparking bidding wars, private negotiations, and soaring values that transform a 1-cent piece into a treasure of unimaginable worth. And that is the magic of numismatics, the idea that hidden riches can be discovered in the most ordinary places, that a tiny copper-colored coin minted in 2001 can become a global sensation when its mistakes tell a story unlike any other. Next, 1989 1-cent coin that has been rumored to reach an unbelievable value of $29 million when found with a combination of extraordinary minting errors, dramatic production flaws, and mysterious anomalies that turn a simple copper-colored penny into a once-in-a-lifetime masterpiece. And before you think this is just another ordinary penny, let me welcome you to a journey where we peel back every layer of the minting process, reveal every possible mistake that could have occurred, and explore how a coin that billions of people have handled without a second thought might hide a version so rare, so bizarrely struck, so uniquely flawed, that collectors and wealthy buyers around the world would be willing to pay astronomical amounts to own it. And as we begin this massive exploration, imagine the year 1989, a period when the US Mint was using high-speed machinery, updated die hub processes, and mass production techniques that created billions of pennies but still left room for strange, unpredictable errors that slip through the system. And it's that combination of modern precision mixed with the occasional mechanical hiccup that produced some of the most spectacular mint errors collectors have ever seen. And the 1989 penny stands out as a coin that, while common in ordinary form, has a mysterious and legendary error version that many believe to be one of the rarest modern coins ever struck. And to understand how a simple penny could reach the mind-blowing value of $29 million, we need to dive deeply into the types of mistakes that could occur, the mint conditions that allowed them, the anomalies that stack together to form a one-of-a-kind treasure, and the unimaginable combination of these errors that might all exist on a single 1989 cent. because in numismatics, rarity is everything, but uniqueness is priceless. And when a coin shows not just one but multiple extraordinary errors, the value skyrockets beyond anything most collectors would ever expect. So let's imagine the minting process in 1989, where blank copper-plated zinc planchets were being fed through high-speed presses, blanking machines cutting out circles from sheets of metal, and the dies being prepared, hardened, polished, and installed, and each of these steps had the potential to go catastrophically or beautifully wrong depending on perspective, because the slightest flaw in a die could create doubling, misalignment, die chips, die cracks, or distortion in the lettering, and the wrong type of planchet could accidentally enter the system, maybe a leftover copper planchet from before 1983 that somehow got mixed in, or a foreign coin blank of a similar size, or even a nickel or dime planchet that accidentally slipped past checks. And if a 1989 penny were struck on a dramatic wrong planchet composition while also showing major die doubling on Liberty or the date, and at the same time presenting a massive off-center strike where the design lands crookedly on the surface, that combination alone could make it worth millions. But now imagine adding even more layers of shocking errors, such as a broad strike where the collar fails and the metal spreads outward, distorting the shape of the coin, or a double strike where the coin landed awkwardly on the die after the first strike and was hit again, leaving overlapping images of Lincoln's profile, ghost-like shifts of letters, or repeated impressions of the date that almost look like they're fading into each other. And errors like this already create dramatic, widely sought-after pieces, but in 1989 something else was known to happen: die clashes where the two dies strike each other without a planchet between them, leaving the faint outline of the memorial building on the obverse or the shadow of Lincoln's bust on the reverse, giving the coin an eerie appearance collectors love. And if this clashed die then went on to strike a wrong planchet penny with dramatic doubling and off-center placement, you would suddenly have one of the rarest error combinations imaginable. And this is where the legend of the $29,001,989 penny gains its strength, because wealthy collectors don't pay enormous sums for simple errors but for extreme combinations that exist once in a lifetime. And many theories suggest that the most valuable 1989 penny possesses not just one mistake but a long sequence of improbable minting events that resulted in a unique specimen, perhaps a coin that shows deep die cracks running across Lincoln's face like lightning, or a massive cut where a broken portion of the die left a raised blob of metal on the surface, or filled letters in the date where die chips clogged the numbers, making the 9 or 8 appear swollen. And these dramatic visual differences help collectors immediately recognize that this is no ordinary penny. But then you add the possibility that the coin was struck using a misaligned die that caused the design to lean toward one edge, creating uneven rims. And then imagine the strike being weak in some areas and overly strong in others due to pressure inconsistencies, and suddenly you have a Frankenstein-like creation of mint errors that blend together into a single unforgettable piece, a coin that seems to tell the story of mechanical chaos at the mint frozen in metal. And this is exactly the type of narrative that fuels the value of rare error coins, because collectors aren't just buying a penny, they're buying the story behind the coin, the moment of failure in the minting process captured forever. And the chance that such a coin survived inspection and made it into circulation or a mint bag is already astonishing, and that rarity is what creates legendary valuations. And when you consider that billions of pennies were minted in 1989 but only one or two may have escaped with this legendary combination of mistakes, it suddenly makes sense that such a coin could reach a price as high as $29 million, especially when wealthy collectors compete for ownership of unique relics, driving prices into the stratosphere. And as we continue unraveling the possibilities, think about how a wrong metal error could transform the coin's weight and color, making it instantly identifiable, and how if that wrong planchet were slightly larger or smaller than typical penny blanks, the strike might appear distorted, stretched, or incomplete, with letters missing or faint, making it an even stranger anomaly. And then imagine this already unusual strike being affected by die deterioration late in the die's life, causing flow lines and rough texture around the edges of the coin, giving it a dramatic appearance under magnification. And when all of these characteristics combine, the coin becomes a scientific curiosity as well as a collector's masterpiece. And we also must consider the possibility of off-metal transitional errors, such as a coin struck on an experimental planchet or leftover material used during testing phases at the mint, which has happened before in many documented cases. And if a 1989 penny was struck on such a planchet, then paired with doubled dies, then paired with off-center placement, then paired with a die clash, then paired with broken dies, the result is a coin that defies minting logic itself. And these impossible-seeming combinations are exactly what drive legendary valuations in the numismatic world, because collectors understand that once these errors occur together, The odds of another identical coin existing are mathematically near zero, making them holy grails of modern minting, and rumor has long suggested that a specimen of this nature from 1989 was discovered, examined, authenticated, and absorbed into a private collection where its mystique only grew over time, inspiring treasure hunters everywhere to dig through old jars, coin rolls, pocket change, and inherited collections hoping to find another, even though logic suggests only one such coin might have ever existed, and that sense of mystery, rarity, and impossibility together is what elevates the supposedly $29 million 1989 penny into mythic status among collectors. And so as you look deeper into this coin story, you begin to appreciate how even a tiny change in the minting process can create huge value, and how the imperfections in a mass production system can give rise to masterpieces far more valuable than the coins the mint intended. And the magic of this story is that this kind of rarity could still be hiding somewhere right now, undiscovered, tucked away in a forgotten drawer, a piggy bank, or a cup holder in a car, waiting for the right pair of eyes to recognize its extraordinary nature. And that's why understanding the full breadth of mint errors is so important, because the next time you hold a 1989 penny, you might be holding something far more valuable than 1 cent, and this is the thrill that keeps collectors searching, keeps treasure hunters scanning coins under magnification, and keeps stories like the $29 million 1989 penny alive and exciting. And if you enjoyed this deep exploration into the world of extraordinary mint errors, the powerful stories behind them, and the unbelievable possibilities that ordinary coins can hold, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss another incredible journey into the amazing world of rare coins and hidden treasures. Next, 2008 1-cent coin, a coin that is usually considered modern, ordinary, and common, yet when found with certain extraordinary errors and rare minting anomalies, it has been rumored to reach an unbelievable value of $11 million. And as always, I want to welcome you warmly to this exploration, because what you're about to hear is more than just a coin story. It's a journey into how tiny mistakes, microscopic shifts in metal, mechanical misfires at the US Mint, and freak accidents in the production process can transform a simple modern penny into a numismatic legend worth more than luxury cars, mansions, or even some private jets. And to understand how a 2008 penny could be worth such an astronomical amount, we first need to step into the environment of the mint during that year, a time when the copper-plated zinc cents were being produced by the billions with fast, precise machinery. Yet even with the highest standards, mistakes still slipped through the cracks, and when these mistakes occurred in bizarre, unexpected combinations, the result was a coin so unusual, so visually breathtaking in its errors, so utterly unique in its flaws, that collectors would battle fiercely and pay unimaginable sums to own it. And that is exactly the kind of rare miracle that forms the foundation of the myth surrounding the $11 million 2008 penny, a coin that supposedly carries layers upon layers of minting anomalies that elevate it from a 1-cent piece to a 1 in a billion masterpiece, because the more extreme the error, the more dramatic the story, and the more dramatic the story, the higher the value explodes. So imagine we are walking through the minting process of 2008, starting with blank planchets, thin copper-plated zinc discs waiting to be struck, and the moment one of these planchets enters the press, the slightest deviation in timing can create chaos, such as a misfeed that causes the planchet to slide, tilt, or shift during the strike, creating off-center strikes, broad strikes, or partial designs. And even though such errors are already interesting to collectors, the 2008 penny believed to be worth millions didn't just have one simple error, but rather an extraordinary combination of multiple mistakes, perhaps beginning with a wrong planchet event where a planchet intended for a foreign coin slipped into the system, which is not as impossible as some imagine, since the US Mint produces coins for various countries and occasionally blanks become mixed, and if the planchet were of a slightly different size or metal composition, the coin would strike awkwardly, producing strange rims, unusual weights, or odd coloration, all of which instantly spark collector interest. But imagine combining that with dramatic doubling on the obverse, a double die error affecting the word liberty, the date, or even Lincoln's profile, doubling so strong that it appears almost like a shadowed outline, giving the coin an eerie and electrifying visual appeal under magnification. And then imagine that the reverse die happened to be misaligned, striking too high or too low, causing the memorial design to land strangely on the planchet, perhaps stretching or compressing the details, warping the columns, or shifting the roof unevenly toward one edge. And then imagine that the die used to strike this wrong planchet coin with doubled images and misalignment was also severely deteriorated or cracked, producing deep flow lines, raised die chips, or massive cuts where chunks of the die face broke away, leaving large misshapen blobs of raised metal on the coin, and now suddenly you have a piece so chaotic in appearance, so intensely flawed, that it stands out instantly even to someone who has never collected coins, and this is only the beginning of what could elevate the coin to multi-million-dollar status, because alongside these errors, imagine that the coin also suffered a severe die clash, one of the most visually striking errors where the obverse and reverse dies accidentally strike each other without a planchet between them, imprinting faint outlines of the opposite design onto each die, and then those clashed dies go on striking coins, leaving ghost-like shapes, such as the outline of Lincoln's shoulder appearing in the memorial design or the faint shape of the memorial columns hidden behind Lincoln's portrait. And then imagine this clashed die used to strike the already incorrectly composed planchet. With doubling, misalignment, and die damage, and now you have a swirling tornado of minting chaos that makes the coin almost unreal, and the more unusual the combination, the more valuable the result becomes, because collectors seek not just rarity but uniqueness, something that exists once and never again, and when a coin carries multiple extreme errors that logically should not coexist in a single strike, demand and value explode beyond normal reasoning, and now add the possibility of a double strike, one of the most dramatic mint errors in which the coin is struck once, then either fails to eject properly or bounces awkwardly in the press, receiving a second strike at a strange angle or partial placement, creating overlapping designs, warped lettering, duplicated outlines, or ghosted shapes across the surface, and if that second strike is rotated or off-center, the visual drama increases tenfold, and if that second strike happened while the dies were already clashed, cracked, and deteriorating, the resulting coin becomes something so bizarre that even seasoned numismatists might pause when they see it, marveling at how such a piece escaped quality control at all, and to heighten the mystery even further, consider the possibility that the planchet itself may have had imperfections before striking, such as lamination errors where the metal surface peels or flakes, exposing layers beneath or creating rough textures, or plating bubbles where the copper layer did not bond perfectly to the zinc core, creating raised blister-like surfaces that distort the appearance of Lincoln's face or the lettering, and when plating bubbles combine with dramatic doubling, die cracks, misalignment, wrong planchet coloration, and a rotated second strike, the result is a coin that defies expectations and becomes a holy grail of modern mint errors, the kind of coin that appears once in an era, a coin that collectors and wealthy investors would chase relentlessly, and rumors have swirled for years about a specific 2008 penny discovered under mysterious circumstances, supposedly authenticated privately, featuring a breathtaking series of errors so intense and so unlikely that only one example could possibly exist, and that coin, according to stories whispered among collectors, reached an estimated value of $11 million not because of hype or exaggeration, but because the combination of errors was mathematically impossible to replicate, a sequence of minting accidents so precise and so improbable that it was like capturing lightning in a bottle and freezing it in metal, and this myth has driven endless excitement for treasure hunters who now examine every 2008 penny they find, hoping that they might stumble upon another version of this miraculous minting disaster, and when you imagine the thrill of searching through jars, rolls, or forgotten coin piles, knowing that even a modern penny from 2008 could carry a life-changing secret, you begin to understand why error coins capture human imagination so powerfully, because this world is not just about coins, it's about possibility, discovery, and the idea that something extraordinary can hide inside something ordinary, and as collectors continue to search for dramatic double dies, off-center strikes, clashed designs, wrong planchets, die cracks, die chips, and experimental metal compositions, the story of the legendary $11 million 2008 penny grows larger each year, inspiring both seasoned numismatists and beginners alike to keep hunting, keep examining, and keep believing that one day they might uncover a treasure sitting quietly where they least expect it. And if you enjoyed this massive, deep exploration into how an everyday coin can become an unbelievable masterpiece of minting chaos worth millions, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss another incredible journey into the astonishing world of rare coins and hidden treasures. Next. 1993 D1-cent coin that has been rumored to reach an astonishing value of $56 million when displaying a combination of extreme, dramatic, and nearly impossible minting errors. And before we begin unraveling this enormous story, I want to welcome you warmly into this journey because what you're about to discover is more than just a coin analysis. It's a deep exploration into how the tiniest flaws, microscopic shifts, machine failures, die malfunctions, metal anomalies, and accidental chaos inside the Denver Mint in 1993 could come together to create a penny so rare, so unique, and so wildly valuable that collectors would battle for the chance to own it, and as always this journey starts with imagining the world of the mint in 1993, a time when billions of copper-plated zinc cents were being produced at high speed. The machines were moving relentlessly, dies were striking rapidly, planchets were being fed in by the thousands per minute, and every step of this process had the potential to go catastrophically wrong in ways that create some of the most prized mint errors in history. And in the case of the legendary $56 million 1993 D penny, the theory is not just one error, not even two or three, but a breathtaking stack of severe, combined, overlapping mistakes that somehow all occurred on a single 1-cent coin, forming a masterpiece of minting chaos that defies logic, probability, and mechanical predictability. And to understand how such a coin could exist and why it could be worth more than entire houses, yachts, or exotic cars, we need to unravel the enormous list of mistakes that might have formed it, starting with the possibility of a wrong planchet strike, one of the most valuable and desirable errors in coin collecting, because the US Mint occasionally handles foreign coinage blanks, and when these blanks get mixed in with domestic planchets, the result is a penny struck on metal that is too large, too light, too thick, too dark, or otherwise completely unlike the copper-plated zinc planchets intended for US cents. And if a 1993 D penny were struck on a foreign planchet that happened to have a composition more similar to bronze, brass, nickel, steel, or some experimental alloy with distinctive weight and color, that alone would increase the value dramatically. But the legend of the $56 million coin suggests that the wrong planchet error was only the foundation upon which even more extraordinary flaws were stacked, such as a massive doubled die on the obverse, where the date, the word Liberty, or Lincoln's profile itself is doubled so strongly that it appears like a shadow behind the primary image, and doubled dies of dramatic intensity are rare in the modern era because the mint improved die production methods, making strong doubling far less common than in earlier decades, and that rarity makes any modern doubled die instantly more valuable. And if the 1993 D penny had extreme doubling, especially on the date, where the 9 and 3 appear doubled or ghosted, it would already be prized. But if this doubled die were also misaligned, causing weak or stretched details, the value would surge even higher. And moving deeper into the possibilities, imagine that this wrong planchet doubled die coin was struck off-center, one of the most visually dramatic mint errors, where part of the design is missing because the planchet was not seated properly when the dies came together. And depending on the percentage of off-center displacement, such coins can be spectacular to look at. But now imagine a horrifyingly rare scenario, a double strike combined with an off-center strike, meaning the coin was struck once improperly, then bounced or failed to eject, and received a second strike in a different position, creating overlapping Lincoln heads, shifted dates, duplicated lettering, or half-struck portions of the memorial design on the reverse, and even a single double strike can command huge value. But a double strike combined with doubling, combined with a wrong planchet, combined with misalignment, creates a once-in-a-lifetime error. And now let's add even more layers, because the legend surrounding this coin suggests that the dies that struck it may have been severely damaged, cracked, deteriorated, or even clashed, meaning the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchet in between, leaving faint impressions of the memorial building on the obverse or Lincoln silhouette on the reverse, creating ghostly outlines that add immense visual intrigue. And if the clashed die then went on to strike a double-struck, off-center, double die penny on a wrong planchet, the result would be an absolute explosion of error characteristics. And then consider the possibility of major die cracks forming during the strike, leaving raised lines across Lincoln's face or through the date, or even forming a cud, where a piece of the die breaks off entirely, leaving a massive raised blob of metal on the edge of the coin, distorting the rim and obliterating parts of the design. And die cuds are highly collectible, especially large dramatic ones. And if the 1993 D penny carried a huge rim cud while also showing doubling, an off-center double strike, a clash die, and a wrong planchet surface, it would be an unprecedented combination. And we haven't even touched on plating errors, which were extremely common in the zinc cent era, where the copper plating sometimes bubbled, peeled, or failed to bond properly to the zinc core, creating blisters, cracks, and exposed zinc patches that distort the coin's appearance. And plating bubbles near Lincoln's jaw, neck, or the date can make the coin look drastically different from normal. And if plating problems occurred on top of everything else, they would add yet another dramatic layer to the coin's uniqueness. And then consider the possibility of a rotated die error, where the obverse and reverse are misaligned rotationally, creating a twist effect when the coin is flipped. And rotated dies are rare and highly desirable, and adding that to all the other errors discussed creates an error combination so improbable that it becomes a singular numismatic miracle. and collectors will pay astronomical amounts for anything that is provably unique, and when we talk about uniqueness in this context, we mean a once-ever-produced error, a coin that literally could not be replicated even if the mint tried to reproduce it, because the exact combination of failures, wrong planchet, double die, double strike, off-center, die clash, die cracks, plating errors, rotated dies, pressure inconsistencies, and misaligned strikes, would require every machine in the minting process to malfunction in the most unlikely possible way at the exact same moment. And this is why stories circulate about a 1993 D-penny that may have contained all of these errors, a coin allegedly found, authenticated privately, and sold into a high-end collection for an enormous amount, possibly exceeding $56 million, because when wealthy collectors want something that no one else can ever have, value becomes irrelevant, and rarity becomes everything, and this is the kind of coin that becomes legendary because it represents a moment of total mechanical failure at the mint captured perfectly in metal. A moment that statistically should never have happened, yet apparently did, and these myths fuel treasure hunters everywhere to search through rolls, jars, purses, and boxes of change hoping to find even a fraction of the extraordinary characteristics that might place their 1993 D-penny among the rarest coins ever created, and the magic of this story is that modern pennies are often ignored, overlooked, and dismissed as insignificant, yet hiding in their ranks could be a life-changing fortune. A coin that carries the scars of minting chaos, the marks of errors piled upon errors, and the unmistakable signs of a treasure born from mechanical failure, and this possibility keeps collectors excited, keeps the legend alive, and keeps the hunt for rare pennies thriving, because the next person to discover an incredible mint error might be you. And if you enjoyed this massive journey into how ordinary coins can become extraordinary treasures worth life-changing amounts of money, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss another unbelievable deep dive into the world of rare coins and hidden fortunes. Today, as we dive deep into another incredible story from the world of rare coins, collectible mysteries and unexpected treasures that hide right in plain sight, because today we're unpacking the unbelievable journey of the 1990 1-cent coin and the astonishing reasons collectors around the world have valued certain rare examples of this coin at a staggering $20 million. A number so unbelievably high that it shocks new collectors and lifelong hobbyists alike, and yet when we break down the combined factors of minting errors, striking anomalies, transitional mistakes, die deterioration, planchet defects, intentional and unintentional variations, early die states, late die states, double strikes, off-centers, misaligned dies, wrong planchets, broad strikes, overpolished dies, reprocessed blanks, copper versus zinc inconsistencies, texture abnormalities, pressure miscalculations, temperature inconsistencies during striking, and a whole host of subtle indicators that specialists look for when determining whether a coin moves from common pocket change into the realm of ultra-rare collectible artifacts. The story of how a seemingly ordinary 1990 D-penny could reach or even exceed a theoretical $20 million value becomes not only fascinating but also an example of how unpredictable the world of numismatics can be. So let's set the stage by acknowledging that the 1990 D-penny was minted in huge quantities, billions of them produced at the Denver Mint, which typically implies abundance and low value. Yet that same massive production run increases the odds of unique minting accidents slipping through the quality control systems, and this becomes critical to our story because even a single dramatic minting error, especially one involving wrong planchets or transitional composition, can take a coin from being worth 1 cent to becoming a once-in-a-generation numismatic marvel, and this exact phenomenon is what collectors theorize may have occurred. With a handful of mysterious examples from the 1990 D series, beginning with the possibility that some were struck on experimental transitional planchets left over from the early 1980s copper era, meaning instead of the standard zinc core with copper plating introduced in 1982, these hypothetical transitional 1990 D coins might have been struck on a pure copper planchet weighing significantly more than the standard 2.5 grams, and if even one such coin exists, authenticated, documented through metallurgical testing and graded at a high uncirculated level, the value could skyrocket because transitional errors are among the rarest and most valuable categories of all United States coin errors, with previous examples like the 1943 copper cent and the 1944 steel cent fetching 6 figures and even 7 figures at auction. And so the very idea that a 1990 D transitional copper cent could exist creates speculative value that generates enormous interest, but that's just one part of the story. Because the 1990 D also has a fascinating connection to the famous and highly valuable 1990 No-S proof cent, a proof coin missing its mint mark which sold for tens of thousands of dollars at auction, and even though the No S variety does not directly tie into the Denver Mint's production, it still influences collector interest in the year 1990 as a whole, encouraging enthusiasts to examine all coins from that year more carefully for anomalies, and when people begin looking more closely, they discover a wide range of potential errors in business. Strike 1990 D cents including doubled dies, especially minor doubled dies in the date and lettering, die chips in the Lincoln Memorial columns, die cracks extending across the reverse fields, cuds forming where die breaks occur near the rim, filled mint marks, overpolished dies that remove details from Lincoln's coat or facial features, and rotated reverses where the alignment between obverse and reverse is slightly off, and while many of these errors individually hold modest value, in rare combinations or extreme states they can transform into extremely valuable specimens, especially if they appear early in the die's lifespan when the strike is sharply defined, increasing collector demand for high-grade examples. And then we must consider another category of errors that could elevate value to unbelievable levels, the wrong planchet strikes, and this includes the theoretical possibility that a 1990 D penny might have been struck on a dime planchet, a foreign planchet, or even a leftover transitional experimental blank, and because the Denver Mint has historically produced coins for other countries and handled various planchet shipments, accidental cross-usage is always a possibility, rare but well documented in other years, and so the moment a 1990 D penny appears underweight, overweight, undersized, oversized, lacking proper plating or possessing unexpected metallic composition, collectors immediately begin to consider the possibility of $1 million mistake. And beyond these structural factors we have to explore the role of die deterioration, because in high production years like 1990 the pressure placed on dies often leads to extreme wear, cracking, stress fractures, die breaks and die collapse, all of which can produce coins with dramatic visual abnormalities like raised extra metal, missing details, distorted letters, swollen fields, and unusual textures, and a subset of these errors known as retained cuds can be particularly valuable because they preserve the moment just before a full die break, capturing the transition of the die failing, and these intermediate states can be incredibly rare, especially on high mintage issues where dies are replaced frequently, and so when such a coin is preserved in exceptional condition against overwhelming odds, its value increases dramatically, adding another reason why a 1990 D cent could theoretically command astronomical collector interest. But then we shift to the human aspect of minting errors, which involves the unpredictable nature of manual adjustments, die polishing, die replacement, mint worker oversight, machinery maintenance, and even rushed processes during high output intervals, which all contribute to irregularities such as missing plating, incomplete plating where the zinc core becomes exposed, uneven strikes where one half of the coin is sharply detailed while the other half fades, or feet or finger scrapes that leave long gouged marks across the surface. And these kinds of dramatic, struck-through error coins can be extremely valuable for collectors seeking visually striking examples that clearly show the chaotic mechanical nature of the minting environment. And once again, examples from the 1990 D series have been found with such characteristics, raising further speculation that an especially extreme example could one day appear that is so unique, so visually dramatic, and so historically significant that collectors might attribute a value far beyond typical market expectations, potentially leading to a valuation in the tens of millions, just like other ultra-famous errors in numismatic history. And now we must consider the grading factor, because condition plays a huge role in determining whether an error coin becomes a global sensation or remains a minor curiosity. And if a 1990 D error coin were found in a pristine state such as MS-68 or MS-69, levels nearly impossible for zinc cents due to their fragile surfaces, the combination of rarity of grade and rarity of error could multiply perceived value exponentially, and the theoretical $20 million figure becomes rooted in the principle that the rarest possible version of a coin doesn't just command a premium. It becomes a once-in-a-century artifact whose value is determined by competition among elite collectors with virtually unlimited budgets. So when we imagine the perfect storm formed by a transitional planchet, dramatic minting error, extreme visual appeal, high-grade preservation, confirmed metallurgical testing, strong provenance, and media attention from numismatic organizations, we begin to understand how a 1990 D 1-cent coin could reach a level of value that far surpasses traditional pricing guides, because collector psychology, rarity, historical significance, and auction competition create a powerful combination capable of inflating prices far beyond logical baseline values. And when you blend all these possibilities, all these hypothetical scenarios, all these documented types of errors, and all the unpredictable factors at play in the minting process, the $20 million valuation emerges not as a random imaginative claim but as a theoretical maximum representing what could happen if the rarest possible error imaginable from the 1990D series were discovered, authenticated, and placed into the hands of fiercely competitive collectors who understand the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity such a coin represents, finally illustrating why even an everyday pocket change penny from 1990 can spark incredible excitement among those who know what to look for, and why you should always check your change because you never know what treasure could be hiding right in front of you. And of course, if you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of rare error coins and unbelievable collectible stories, make sure you stay connected, because there are countless more mysteries, legends, and discoveries waiting to be explored. And before you head out, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and join us for more amazing coin journeys just like this one.